Hey everyone, welcome back. This is HiFi Home Theater. I'm your host Brian. Today I want to talk to you about AV receivers. In the past, AV receivers were notorious for being awful as far as their musical performance. In fact, when I got into this hobby 15, 20 years ago, I started more so in the home theater realm and surround sound. That's really what got me into home audio. And it was AVR's lackluster performance with music listening, because I love to listen to a lot of music, that drove me down the rabbit hole of two-channel audio as far as separates and integrated amplifiers. And from there, it kind of spiraled into having a separate dedicated theater space and then a separated two-channel space. And then I would try to integrate my home theater with the two-channel by hooking up maybe an integrated amp through the receiver, and it was a convoluted mess. And I had kind of decided that it was going to have to stay a separate setup for many, many years. That's just the way it was. That was a given, right? People just accepted the fact that AVRs just were not good as far as two-channel stereo experience. Too low cost of an options for as much stuff they have crammed in that box. It just wasn't going to happen. But over the past few years, we now have some solid mainstream entries into the hi-fi options realm from the ones I'm going to talk about today are Denon and NAD. These are the ones that I've personally used. I've also used a couple of Marantz too, and we'll touch on those as well. But that's what I want to focus on today, is the fact that you have a legitimate hi-fi option to use an AVR as your main source component. No longer do you have to feel like you're compromising in some way. I'm not saying that AVR is better than any separate two-channel equipment out there or anything like that. What I'm saying is you don't have to feel like you are missing out on anything in a big way, and you can have a very satisfactory two-channel experience with these AVRs. Now, the ones I want to talk about are the ones I have some experience with, like I said, and the first one I'm going to start with is the NAD 778. I'm sorry, the NAD T778. This receiver, pretty much when it was announced, it seemed like the perfect receiver for me. I already have many Blue Sound pieces of Blue Sound gear, so I have several. I have the Pulse sound bar. I have a Pulse speaker. I've had power nodes, regular nodes, you name it. So I'm very familiar with the Blue Sound kind of ecosphere there. So when this was announced, I was like, wow, that's perfect. And it came out, and it is great. It's a great sounding AVR. Don't get me wrong. I actually had separates of the 268 C368. No, I'm sorry, 568 preamp combined with the 268 amplifier, right, for a little while as well. And there is no discernible difference in performance from that preamp amp combination and the T778. So for about $500 more for the T778, you're pretty much getting the same performance from a two-channel perspective and 7 additional channels and all the benefits that come with it, the HDMI inputs and switching and everything like that. So that's a great bargain. I mean, it's a solid performer. The only nits I have to pick with the T778, there's two big ones for me. The first one is that the sub outputs are not independent. Right, there's basically an internal Y splitter in there. They're not independent pre-outs for the subs. That's kind of a missed opportunity, I think. But the big one to me, it's a mystery. I don't know why NAD does things like this, but you cannot reassign the front amp channels. So if you wanted to add a external amplifier to the T778, you could do it, but like on the Denon, you can reassign those unused channels to your rear or your secondary Atmos channels. With the NAD, you cannot. If you want to expand to a 11 speaker system, you can't reassign the front channels, and you're always going to have to add a second stereo amplifier to do that. So those are the two big downsides to the T778 for me. Other than that, I love the Blue Sound ecosystem. I love the app. It works great. The T778 sounds great, and it's a great choice. Moving on from there into what I think are really the game changer AVRs is what's coming out from Denon and their X series. And two specifically that I have experience with are going to be the X4700H and the X6700H. Both of these receivers have great amp systems, amplifiers. Their preamp section is great, very clean sounding amplifiers. I mean, they just sound great with music. And of course, you get everything. You have Denon, they just work. They've been basically making the same device for the past like 20 years, right? They just update it with different technologies, surround technologies, but they've kind of been making a similar box for the past 20 years. So they've got it down pretty well. And you just know it's going to work. They're very popular. So they've been tested and they usually don't have very many problems with them. I did have the Marantz 8012, 8012, and honestly, I was disappointed in that one. I think they had some problems with the some noise, and there were some distortion issues with that AVR. I wasn't really happy with that one. Too much of a warm sound for me. I like a more clean and neutral sound, and I wasn't getting it from the 8012. I don't know if that's the Marantz sound, but I didn't care for it, so away that went. One of the things that makes a couple of the Denons such great choices, especially the 4700, is the fact that you can add a 2-channel amplifier to your fronts, so you can get more power to your front channels, and you can reassign those left and right front channels now to your rear or your other Atmos channels, so they don't go wasted. So you can do that with both the 4700 and also the 3700. I have not listened to the 3700, but the specs are very close to the 4700. But I think really the sweet spot in all these receivers, for me personally, for what I've tried, is that 4700H. And it used to be a real bargain before the prices went up, but now at $2,000, I think if a choice between the 4700 and a 2-channel amplifier or the 6700, I think I would pick the 4700 and the amplifier. So like I said, I'm not saying that the AVRs, that everybody should just go out and buy AVRs for their 2-channel rigs, but what I'm saying is that they are now a legitimate high fidelity option. You can use them and have a great 2-channel experience. I can name several dedicated 2-channel integrated amplifiers that I would not choose over some of these AVRs. Specifically, I would say the Rogue Audio Sphinx version 3, version 2 or 3. I wouldn't pick that over one of these AVRs I've mentioned. The NAD C368. I love that integrated amp, but today I would not pick it over one of these AVRs. One of my early videos, I talked about the combination that Shit Audio has with the Vidar amp, the Saga preamp, and the Modi DAC. And that combination together is $1,200. And I thought it was a great value. For $1,200, you get a legitimate stereo 2-channel setup with a preamp, DAC, and amplifier. And I will say that the 2-channel experience from even the 4700 is every bit as good as that Shit combination that I did the earlier video on. Every bit as good. As I said, for a lot of people, I mean many of us out there, we don't have room or the funds available for separate theater and 2-channel setups. We have to make the best of what we have in one setup. And for the longest time, you had to kind of make a couple of maybe a cheap AVR and a cheaper integrated work together as far as all that complication and the sound delays and whatnot. It's a big headache. It's a big mess. But you don't have to do that anymore. You can get one of these AVRs and feel like and have a great experience and not feel like you're missing out on anything. I know all these AVRs I'm talking about have been out for quite a while now, and people have touched on it, but I just don't think it's getting the attention that it deserves. I mean, like I said, in the past few years, these AVRs have really stepped up their game as far as their preamp sections and their amplifier sections. They're very low noise, very clean sounding options here. And I think that is because most of the people that are reviewing these AV receivers fall more into the home theater camp. Not that they don't care about two-channel music listening, that sometimes they touch on it, but that's not even close to being the majority of the base of customers for these things, right? The vast majority of the customers buying these are more interested in the surround home theater experience. So I know I haven't done a video in a long time. I just wanted to hop on here. I've seen several videos out that talk about these AVRs. I've played around with a few of them. Really where it came from is I've actually disassembling my dedicated theater and making an all-in-one system. And I'm redoing my basement. So I haven't had a theater in a while, but I can't go without a setup. So I've been doing a lot of two-channel setup listening, and I've had several of these AVRs in my setup in the rotation and gotten a chance to play around with them. So I thought I'd get on here and give you my feedback. Hopefully I'll get my basement done here in the next several months, and I'll be putting out more consistent content for you guys. All right, everybody, we talked about how AVRs have now entered into mainstream hi-fi and they're a legitimate two-channel option. And I also discussed my experiences with some of these that really shocked me with their audio performance. So if you are a home theater enthusiast who wants to up their game as far as two-channel, but you think you have to add an expensive integrated amplifier into the mix, or if you're just getting into this and you're kind of thinking that you won't be able to get the best of both worlds, you're gonna have to compromise in one way or another, try one of these AVRs out. Find a dealer with a good return policy, try them out. I think you'll be surprised. I was. And if anything, their preamp sections are so good that you can always add amplifiers onto them to kind of grow into the system. So yeah, that's going to be it for now. If you liked what you saw, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. Hopefully I'll be putting out more content more frequently here in the future, and I hope to talk to you guys again soon. Thanks.